The lake is frozen, and the girl becomes frozen when she hears her father say that he's decided to take the job offer in Texas, a move that will put her 1,200 miles away from her hometown, away from her friends, away from everything she's worked for and built as an honor student, editor of the school newspaper, member of the school orchestra, candy striper at the Veterans Hospital, cheerleader, all-American girl. She hears her father go on to say that they will leave soon, during the upcoming Christmas break, during her sophomore year. She feels like everything in her life is evaporating, the way that rainwater in traffic sometimes slaps against the hot metal undercarriage of a pickup truck, turns into steam, and disappears. The night before she's supposed to leave for Texas, the girl develops a craving for penny candy. She sneaks out. As she's walking away from the store with a paper sack of penny candy in her hand down the deserted highway towards her home, a car pulls up beside her. It stops. A man jumps out, grabs her, throws her into the back seat of that car, puts his knee in her stomach, puts a cloth up to her face. She is losing consciousness. She fights it, she fights and fights and fights and fights and fights, and she loses. From time to time, she's vaguely aware that the weather is getting warmer and warmer as she's driven south. She is taken to a building just outside the city's limits of Atlanta, where her hair is chopped off and dyed. She's pumped full of drugs, and she is given to men, well-dressed, seemingly educated men who rape her and leave her bloody and bruised on the black and white linoleum floor. This happens again and again, and she somehow manages to create a mantra, which she says to herself over and over. You can force yourself on my body, but you will never, ever touch my mind. They call her the Heartbreaker. This is strange, so very strange to her, because she is the one with the broken heart. She's surrounded by children, most of them younger than she is. Children, boys and girls, the FBI tells us, have a maximum of 6 years to live after they are taken into sex trafficking. So a 6-year-old might become 12 years old, and a 12-year-old could become 18, perhaps. This is due to all the levels of abuse these children suffer, which range from lack of medical attention to forced use of drugs. She worries about these children. Back home, she was everybody's favorite babysitter, but here she can't do anything to help these kids. She knows they must escape. She knows she must escape, but she can't figure out how to do it. Crimes against children are committed all over the world. When I was a guest artist over a 7-year period in what was then called the Murder Mile for a peace and reconciliation process in Belfast, Northern Ireland, children were shot, injured, and killed by rubber bullets. I was invited to perform for a group memorial service in West Belfast for 300 civilian victims of the violence, the terrible violence that happened in Northern Ireland called the Troubles. The friends and family created a magnificent 300-square remembering quilt, 1 square for each deceased loved one. I turned to look at the quilt before I perform, and I am transfixed by the central square, which features a baby, a photo of an infant with a diaper pin beside it. Later, after the performance, I'm in line at the cafeteria in the West Belfast Cultural Center, and the man standing in front of me turns to me and tells me that both his sons, aged 16 and 18, were killed. They shot them, he says to me. My wife and I watched him go down and die in front of our eyes and could do nothing. Well, thankfully, in the years since I've been there, the 10 years, things have gotten better in Belfast. But Atlanta, oh, Atlanta. In the years since the girls was taken, Atlanta has become a top-ranked international epicenter for child sex trafficking. Children from all over the world, around the corner, around the state, and around the nation are brought here and bought and sold for sex. Somewhere not far from here, a child is being sex trafficked as I speak to you. The worst thing that can ever happen to a parent is to lose a child. And the agony of having your child disappear and die at the hands of sex traffickers is unimaginable. And it might seem unlikely that the girl could escape. But she does somehow escape, and she finds herself in Texas in January. People are standing on the balcony and around the fence, around the motel pool. To them, the weather seems cold. To her, raised swimming in the frigid waters of the most treacherous Great Lake, 27 miles from the Canadian border, to her, the weather seems balmy. She stands on the diving board, notices she's wearing last summer's swimsuit, and realizes her parents must be nearby. She dives into the water. She swims and swims. She swims through currents of recurring nightmares, into waves of challenges and achievements, until one day, in this moment, she lands on shore on this stage. And she is able to tell you, I am able to tell you my story, which is the girl's story.